Some might think that the world of sim racing is just for the kids, but 60 Plus Racing Adventures goes against the train, and it shows that the passion for racing runs deep through all generations. This is the iRacing League for drivers 60 years of age or over, and it shows that there's still a lot of fight, a lot of competition, but a lot of great companionship, a lot of great competition in them. We love this series. More people turn 60 every day, and it brings us to round 3 of this season of 60 Plus Racing Adventures, now beyond the 30th season of competition. David Haynes here with Justin Prince and producer Connery Maddock, so we bring you round 3 from Silverstone. Justin.
It should be a fun one. This is in the midst of an early championship battle, but right now a lot of these drivers have showcased why throughout today's practices, and in particular throughout the early portion of the season, why these drivers like to have fun, and better yet, why it's so competitive at 60 Plus Racing Adventures. Drivers like Ragnar Whistler, John Payne, and Greg Seitz have showed flashes of speed throughout the season so far. This is part of our 3 broadcasted race slate for this season 2, Suzuka and VIR's championship finale. Also be seen here on RaceSpot. It should be a fun time. Keep an eye on how drivers do here in the UK today.
You take a look at those first 3 rounds of the championship, and they are all super high speed tracks, a lot of time in top gear, looking for the slipstream, looking to wait deep in the race to pounce and make your moves. That's what we're expecting to get out of Silverstone again tonight, where we have 2 races coming up for 60 Plus Racing Adventures. As you see correctly, the 31st season of this league on iRacing, and it goes strength to strength. After the 2 races that we've had, Greg Seitz, the season 28 and season 29 champion, is top of the board. Defending champion, 4-time champion Ragnar Whistler just behind him in second. And would you believe it, there's also a sub-championship in this league, the Super 70s. That's drivers 70 years of age or over. Barry Hills, 3rd place in the outright, is leading that, and he has done really well for himself out of that. John Morgan normally has a stranglehold on the Super 70s. Barry Hills is off to a lightning start this season.
Yeah, it's been a lightning start as well for Greg Seitz. 49 points apiece in the first 2 races. Remember, in this series, your highest running championship race out of the 2 during the day ends up being the points scored for said round. It's made it very difficult to keep up with him, especially when Whistleoff's best he's able to do so far. Just 40 points with the dominance of Seitz in the early 2 races so far.
So we're on the modern version of the Silverstone Grand Prix layout. That sees us using the new pit building on the Hamilton Straight. It sees us using the new infield loop section. But what it means is that the track is then centered around 4 key long straights. The Hamilton Straight, Wellington Straight, the Hangar Straight, and the Old Pit Straight, and all of them are super high speed. It means you've got to carry as much momentum as possible off all of these corners in qualifying, where the drivers find themselves now setting the grid for the first of the 2 races. But when we get racing, it means, again, you've really got to look for the toe in these delicate 2010 spec F3 cars. They're very nimble, they are very light, they are not super horsepowered up with a 2-litre 4-cylinder naturally aspirated engine, and the device you see hanging off the left hand side of the engine cover is their air intake. So the air feeds from there directly into, I think it's 4 throttle bodies, or maybe just 1 throttle body in that doohickey hanging off into the engine. So they got a little over 200 horsepower, but they are just so nimble, so reactive.
And in turn, it's going to be very pivotal for a lot of these drivers to make sure they're precise on their movements today. Make sure they don't screw up too much speed, or better yet, risk contact. More than 150 miles an hour at the stop end speed right now around the racetrack for our drivers. John Payne, yet again, though, he's been one of the quickest drivers on track so far today. He and Wisloff have been back and forth on practice times. Now we're looking like in qualifying times. Right now, 1:52.6, the name of the game for the pole.
1 lap in the books from all of the drivers. They're completing their 2nd flying lap of this qualifying session, and that's the one where it really counts. You can really lay it down. It's good conditions for this as well. Look at that. You've got a bit of blue skies out there, only a little bit of cloud hanging around, and it means that while it's nice for England, 20 degrees Celsius in the air, it's 27 on the track. That will get your tyres going, but without wearing them too much, without bringing the oils out of the tarmac and sliding across the top. So it gives confidence in fourth gear through Stowe Corner towards the end of the lap for John Payne, who maybe just washes out a little wider than he would have liked. Last braking zone of the lap into Vale and then Club here, where you're looking to carry all of your speed inside of that big red sausage curb to the timing line just here out of the final corner. John Morgan's qualifying's already done from second place. John Payne there just missing out on a subtle improvement by about a tenth, but I suspect there's some other drivers we'll see come through and improve, like Ragnar Wisloff, who goes to the top.
Nice done for Ragnar. That's why he was top of the board in final practice, had more consistent times when it came to some of his practice session moments. Curious how Greg Seitz is going to go. He's one of the drivers not yet to set a time, interesting enough, as you take a look at David Bradley. It's worth noting Seitz went an extra 2-3 minutes after everybody else, David. He's still yet to get on the board for his first lap.
What an awesome onboard angle again. Talking about the speed that you carry. Fifth gear through Cops Corner, up to sixth, heading down into the part of this racetrack that's been most copied, most imitated around the world. Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, you see in sixth gear, one shift down into fifth, one shift down into fourth, coming out of the corner in fourth gear, again, maximising your exit there onto the hangar straight, where you're very quickly up into the top gear and carrying speed down towards Stowe Corner, a little off camber through here. You saw it for John Payne, it made his nose wash out a little bit. For Greg Seitz, manages to keep the nose online, get to the throttle early, and he's about to see out his laps with 2 minutes 30 seconds left on the clock. We're about to see what Greg Seitz has got in his locker.
Out of 152.281 already to the pole with a lap in hand. How about that for Greg Seitz?
Super stuff from qualifying. He's flat out through turn one, you flat out through turn two, getting into this loop section of the lap. You get down into second gear for basically the only time in the lap. Only real slow corners around here. The rest of it's all about momentum, using the bit of the downforce that the Dallara F3 car gives you. And Greg Seitz is one of the last cars left on track, which means he's going to be very tough to stop, as he's already on the provisional pole time. I think we've just got Russ Addy doing a cool down lap, Bob Kern doing some cool down laps here as well. It's all the Greg Seitz show. Bob Kern, I think, has also just crossed the line to finish his qualifying, and was that last lap not counted?
Regardless, don't think so. Indeed, he was a 157.1 for Bob Kern. Gonna have a lot to improve on during the race itself. But Greg, well, there's a reason he's won back-to-back races. You're seeing why he's got knockout pace and why his team's leading the team championship.
1 minute left on the clock. Greg Seitz working his way around to finish this one off. Can he make it an even stronger margin from qualifying for race number one? Looks like he'll already be starting on the front row and on the pole position. But what kind of an impact can he make with his second qualifying lap? He's almost done with this lap. Picking whichever was his favourite of the braking markers down there. Maybe the 50, maybe a little bit later. And getting to the throttle smoothly, keeping it flat out through here. Timing line comes up quickly, and he does go even quicker to put himself at the top by a margin of 4.5 tenths in a pretty competitive field. He's left Ragnar Wisloff, John Payne and John Morgan in his dust, and there's only 15 seconds left of qualifying. We're not going to sig any more times. The Rust Racing machine of Greg Seitz is going to be on the pole. Ragnar Wisloff's Team Vikings is going to be alongside him on that front row. Beautiful aerial shots of, you can kind of see some of the old runways there. As time's gone on, it's looked less like an airbase and more like Britain's premier racing facility here at Silverstone. For race number one, we're about to bring you the grid of 24 drivers for 60 Plus Racing Adventures, Season 31, Round 3. That front row is Greg Seitz. and Ragnar Wisloff for the rolling start.
Yeah, it should be a battle, to say the least, between those two here today with John Payne as well, David.
Yep, and all John row 2 of Payne and Morgan. Remember, Super 70s championship as well. Not in his usual position of right up the front, about third in the outright standings, so maybe he can score some good points here at Silverstone. He's certainly got a good qualifying for race number 1 to help him make that happen. Gerhardus Jorrison and Paul Stump are positions 5th and 6th, making up row 3. Behind them, Ulf Olsen and Todd Scholl make up row 4. Row 5 is Mike McCormick and Russ Addy. Franz Josef Stummy as they call him, in 11th alongside Bob Cohen for row 6. That's the first half of the grid. The second half is Bill Smitham and Stephen Karkner, Douglas Beasley and Steve O'Malley, Jay Frills and JC Hay for, is that an all J? Row 9 back there. Earl Setzer, Randy Shoemake, David Bradley, Bob Kern is the last driver with a qualifying time. Mike Grandy and Jack Turner did not set a qualifying time, so if we see them in this race, we're going to see them out of 23rd and 24th positions, final rows on the grid, again for a rolling start.
And in turn, I think Greg Seitz in great position to try and do what he's done so far in most of these races, try and run away quickly. He did so in the last races at Watkins Glen by almost 5 seconds and just under 4 seconds respectively, David, in 2 races. He's not going to be easy to beat today with him already going to be starting on the pole.
We're about to find out, and race 1 is 14 laps of Silverstone Grand Prix. Very high average speeds. Going to cover a lot of distance in these next 14 laps. You have the Porsche Experience Centre in the background a shot, but the best experience is the Porsche that's leading the field. That's our 911 GT3 pace car. Now, pit entry, of course, is an interesting one here. On this layout of Silverstone, before what you'd call the final 3 corners, it's already pulled away. Greg Seitz will control the field on this race start for longer than I think that Porsche will. He's alongside Ragnar Wisloff through the Vale left-hander to the club right-hander. The tail of the field is still in those tight, slow corners, and someone pulls off. Just as our race leader Greg Seitz gets us going, the green flag waves. We're racing for 14 laps, but someone had a problem. That might have been Paul Stump. Russ Addy's got a problem as he has to lock them up. He hits the pit wall, and already the field is very well spread off this restart. Greg Seitz getting reward from his pole position. He's still sliding around though. Those tyres are tough when they're cold, and they look really cold right now, Justin.
Technical issues flying indeed. Can't confirm it's Paul Stump who had an issue off the jump. With him pointed around, more drivers missing the corners here with some certain body parts in terms of cars. That Stump involved. We have more cars trying to avoid contact here. Now, and here we go again. There's the 255. Smitham goes around now.
Cold tyres off this race start, very short formation lap, proving super difficult. Track temperature, same as it was in qualifying, 27 Celsius. By the end of this lap, they'll have grip, they'll be able to lean on the tyres, but in the opening couple of corners, it's caught out quite a number of drivers. The real exception to that, of course, race leader Greg Seitz. He's motoring away. We'll take a look at some of these dramas off the race start. So Stump's already pulled over in the background there. Russ Addy keeps it tight out the final corner, gets a slide, locks it up, just gives a kiss to the pit wall, and then Franz Josef Sturm here, round the outside, driver in front locks up. Sturm comes back to the apex, makes a bit of contact, there's a bit of contact behind that. Bob Cohen, all 4 locked up, just like Russ Addy, and that's Scholl, I think, spinning around, and then later on, Smitham just runs off wide and loses it on the grass.
Yeah, very easy with cold tires to be able to light them up if you're not very, very cautious going on the throttle. When a lot of drivers went very much quickly on the throttle and already starting things off to snap around. Already a more than 1 second advantage. Seitz gained about a 10th per corner right now to start off the race.
Yeah, that's a lap completed. I'm still seeing drivers locking up their tyres, struggling with the balance early on in the race. Hopefully it comes back to them later on in these 14 laps. Greg Seitz leads by 1.2 seconds, and Ragnar Wisloff's key problem right now is that he cannot shake John Payne who started out of the third position, is all over him. Moves being made through the flat out turn 1. And this looks like Russ Addy trying to come back through the field somewhat here as well, alongside Steve O'Malley and Randy Shoemake. Steve O'Malley, one of the more local drivers, and then pulling off, letting some cars through again. Bob Cohen not looked comfortable so far in this race.
Yeah, not at all, with him having to pull over yet again to let drivers go. It's been a wild start, but give shout-outs to Grady especially. He did not set a qualifying time, already is up by more than half the field, David, in this pack. And there goes O'Malley.
Indeed. Waiting patiently before pulling back across the racetrack and onto the old pit straight where the support paddock often is around here. Smitham, I think it was, will also pass him here on lap 2.
I think O'Malley in that whole entire complex, the corners just never fully gripped up through Brooklands and left field, hence why the spin around there. But I was like John Morgan, already losing the toe to the top 3 with how things are settling, having to battle it out for the 4th position pretty soon.
We all know it's well accepted, well studied that a race spot sticker adds 5 horsepower, but how about putting it on the engine intake? Surely it's more effective there. Can that keep John Morgan in 4th place as Greg Seitz really is finding his rhythm, setting the fastest lap of the race on the lap just completed? John Morgan's focus will be on being faster than Gerhardus Jorrison behind him there as they continue to battle over 4th. We've got battle over 6th, Ulf Olsen and Mike McCormick. This on board with McCormick. A car's come out of the pit lane, perhaps Bob Cohen, and looking a little in his way. He's not completely happy with this, I wouldn't think.
Cohen in this circumstance, this would be Stephen Kartner, who was at the very tail of the last lap, now is going to let them on by. Down the Wellington straight, very tail end here. So obviously if you're traffic, you want to be cordial in this series. Drivers don't want to be battling too hard, but that blue flags must be respected in a racetrack like this today. You get caught in air wake and dirty air, it's going to not be good for those in the lead lap.
Certainly noticeable in a car like this, very light with the wings on it. Just lose the front a little bit following someone, but can get a lot of that time back down the long straights here. Once you get up into that 6th gear like Michael McCormick finds himself now, if you're within 1 second of the car in front, certainly get a little bit more speed towing along with them. Relatively aerodynamically sensitive because of their weight. And look, Ulf Olsen knows that as he goes to weave to break the toe already. Russ Addy, we saw him, his race did not get off to a good start, but he's been working his way back up through the field. Qualified 10th. He was down to 15th, 16th, a little lower than that. He's back up to 11th now. And his pace is quicker than a couple of the cars ahead. He's gotten ahead of Mike Grandy again. So he's trying to work his way back into this race after discovering that the cold tyres were super tough work on the race start.
My question's going to be how much those front tires are buzzed from the lockup. Seems right now at least they're absolutely up to temperature, but towards the end of the race he's going to be feeling the mistake, I think, more than anything because of how much he slid those tires around. Speaking of slide around, Smitham, he's gaining some spots back again. Cart's going backwards now.
Smitham, Kern, O'Malley, who we saw around but get back going again as the 3 cars working their way through turn 1. It keeps me awake at night knowing that there are 3 corners at Silverstone that are all named after churches. They're all just different names for church.
I'm curious as to why that keeps you up.
Abbey, Chapel, and there's another one.
I'm supposed to guess, am I?
I'm supposed to remember at this point.
Well, it's definitely going to keep you up at night if you don't remember the
Vale?
order.
No, not Vale. Maybe Vale?
You're the one who brought up the factoid.
It's more of a brain teaser at this point because I can't remember the answer, so I'm sincerely apologetic about that.
Yeah, But hey, so far the race itself is going well so far. For drivers like Morgan, seems to have settled in, seems to be at least in good pace for the top 5 here. John Morgan so far this season's been fairly consistent yet again though as well. In fact, so far he's been able to basically run about 5th or 6th on pace for most of the season. What I'm trying to say there is, David, as still keep an eye on him, is consistency, get yourself good points paying positions in a series like this.
So if you were yelling Priory at your television or computer screen a couple of seconds ago, you were correct. That's the third one.
I was having a
playing
feel.
David Haynes Race Spot Trivia.
Does Priory even exist on the full track?
Only on the older configuration, so I think, yeah, it's before Brooklands on the old Grand Prix layout, which you can still do on iRacing with the legacy version of Silverstone. They've got the scan of around about 2010-ish, and also this more modern version. So it's not on this modern version, but it's still out there. It's on the international configuration, I think, if you do that one. This is Todd Scholl. He's stolen a little bit of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri's style. And they went pretty well at Silverstone last year. So, hey, maybe it'll work for Todd Scholl in 8th place. Again, you just want to line up with the car in front down these straights and feel all of that slipstream, all of that toe if you can get it once you're within about a second.
Yeah, right now just within drafting distance, but not quick enough in the corners per se, but you see some of those bobbles there to really take advantage to catch up to Mike McCormick here. Just enough to be able to hang on with the draft. The second you lose the draft, it's going to get interesting if Douglas Beasley starts reeling him in or not. Beasley, mind you, is about 5 seconds back right now in the 154.7s, 154 flat last time by for Todd Scholl with the draft.
Yeah, really good last lap from Scholl, who we ride on board with, working through the slow stuff. Russ Addy, he's still working his way through best he can. He's side by side with Jay Friels through the loop section. Russ Addy just doesn't get to power well enough to take that 10th place spot, but he'll have another couple of opportunities in the corners coming up.
Yeah, that wasn't the greatest of chances to the loop into entry, to say the least, in that section right now. But I think right now for Addy in particular, the pace, you just have to let the car take you where it needs to go, right? And right now through Woodcote, for example, the pace seems to be the car wants to move up spots, fast in a straight line, has slipstream. Just need to have some give and take to get the passes done, especially to move like Cops. Looks like with this opportunity, might get some give and take if he's able to make the power move for Megans and Beckett's this time.
Russ Addy not giving up, but he just keeps checking up his own momentum. Now he's going to look to cross back over under, get a good run out of Chapel here to power onto the hanger straight. All this back and forth, this side by side with Jay Friels has let Mike Grandy get back into the position. Jay Friels isn't even defending this, he's just waiting for Russ Addy to make a decisive move, which Addy struggled to do for a lap or so. Now down the inside of... gosh, I said it earlier, didn't I? That corner that's off camber.
You're talking about Stowe?
Yes, Stowe. Famous for Michael Schumacher in the 90s, selling to the inside, going around the outside, making the move.
And Addy in turn able to make the simple move. I think Addy's pace in general when he's on his own, 153s right now, going to be well enough to gain him up an extra couple spots here, at least. Douglas Beasley going to need some luck to get to Todd Scholl, with this already coming to halfway this upcoming time by.
Bit of a slide, coming to power out of the slow corner for Russ Addy right there. But he's on the racing line, begins to pull away from Friels and Grandy behind, sets his sights forward. As you say, to Todd Scholl, Douglas Beasley, the next car's position. Mike Grandy, having been brought into this, will have a bit of a go at Friels and just pop ahead through Brooklands.
Well, Grandy's been putting up similar pace to Addy, mind you, so not a surprise to see Mike Grandy make the pass just as quickly here. He's not as quick, I think, per se, compared to what we're seeing from Addy. He is quick enough to make up for the no qualifying time.
So live timing is up, timing.RaceSpot. If you're following a particular driver, particular lap times, anything like that, timing.RaceSpot's your place to go. And it'll tell you the kind of pace they're doing. Everyone's within a tenth or so of their personal bests of the race. Greg Seitz still motoring along fastest of all. Ragnar Wisloff in sort of the mid-high 152s. And John Payne in third. The battling is elsewhere in the field, like John Morgan and Gerhardus Jorgensen for fourth, Mike McCormick and Todd Scholl for 7th and 8th. And this here, JC Hay and Bill Smith in 14th and 15th. JC Hay's made up a good chunk of positions since he started the race. The biggest mover so far, Mike Grandy, started with no qualifying time out at 23rd and now runs 11th, having gotten past Jay Friels that he was battling with a moment ago behind Russ Addy. So it looked like JC Hay just struggling a little bit with grip in the slow corners at the moment.
Yeah, that seems to be bottling up for opportunities right now. He is in 15th, yeah. But you need to be able to handle the dirty air in the slow corners if you want to really be able to make the pass work anywhere. Because if you aren't able to keep up in the slow sections, then how are you supposed to set up the move, David?
Yeah, precisely. It's dropped a little bit back in the last couple of corners, the sort of first half of this lap. Scholl and McCormick and Gerhardus Jorgensen and John Morgan of battles left in the second half of this race right now. And we often find on a hotter track temperature, you can start to run out of tyre if you've leant on it and pushed it and been aggressive with a lot of slip angle all through the race a bit later on. I think that this cooler track will protect them a little bit, but so many 5th, 6th gear corners, you do load up the tyres a lot. You can put a lot of energy through them here. Ooh, Bob Kern has a slide, nearly makes contact with someone, and that was around the far end of the lap. Who did Bob Kern almost hit? Jack Turner, mayhaps? And you see there's damage to the front wing there as he had a slide out of Brooklands.
He hit Paul Stump, actually, I think. And remember, Paul Stump, who was a podium finisher in one of the races at Watkins Glen, has not had a great day technical-wise, so things are not going well for Stump's camp. Addy, meanwhile, is going on the aggressive to try and find a way around Beasley and quickly.
Looks like a new season 31 livery for Douglas Beasley. There's quite a lot of F1 tribute getting around. We used to have a driver in 60 Plus Racing Adventures who every season would run a different Andretti Autosport IndyCar livery, but now everyone's going to the F1 tributes. I think that this purple F1 testing livery from Red Bull might have seen a little bit more success than Caterham did in is that 2013 or 2014? But that's probably not going to be the defining factor right here between Russ Addy and Douglas Beasley. Beasley having made a steady 6 positions so far in this race. One of them he would have gotten from Russ Addy when Addy nearly spun out on the race start, but Addy is charging back for all of those spots and some more, and he's so precise through those quick changes of direction. He's spotting his marks perfectly. Carries all of the speed out here into top gear, into the slipstream, down the inside, heading towards Stowe. Sometimes getting pinched to the inside in a shallow exit through Stowe is difficult because of that little off-camber nature of the corner there, but he gets to power well, and he'll be able to defend his newly gained position, Russ Addy, into 9th place. Oh, and locks the inside just a little bit as well.
Not bad for Addy whatsoever. Addy just at the front, more rapid pace just to close up there. Beasley's been struggling corner exit so far. These final stages of the race. Mike Grandy has a chance to be able to leapfrog him too in the next little bit. How the pace settles down right now. 2 seconds off the pace right now is Beasley. You're seeing exactly what I was just talking about there, David. Apologies there. Just doesn't have the grip to stick it.
Gonna have side by side here again. Grandy down the inside of Beasley at the end of the Wellington Straight. Grandy goes ahead, another position in another F1 tribute livery. That's what we're all doing apparently. These guys, Scholl, not Greg Seitz or Ragnar Wisloff.
I mean, sometimes you have a team, sometimes you don't have a team that you're representing per se in the championship. You're just wanting to have fun. Sometimes people just want to have fun with the paint scheme, right? It really depends. Well, right now, keep in mind, Sitting Bull is the team for Beasley with Jerry Kerr. Sometimes your team has a livery. Sometimes it gets the case of Beasley, it doesn't.
Could be an absolutely massive Guido van der Garde super fan. There are dozens of them out there, so that could be Douglas Beasley.
Mike Grandy is the Ram Racing teammate for Wisloff, mind you. He's been able to ram his way forward with the pace. It comes to question, why not put up the qualifying time? Less than 3 laps to go here, coming up here next time by. He's been rapidly fast.
So your 3 biggest position gainers in this first of 2 races for season 31, round 3 of 60 Plus Racing Adventures. Mike Grandy, Randy Shoemake, and Jay Friels, the biggest position gainers, but especially from that lack of qualifying. Hold on to it. John Morgan, super sideways for the Super 70, and that means he's going to lose a spot here to Gerhardus Jorrison, who gets much better traction out of there. Looks around the outside of Kopp's corner with more speed. Gerhardus Jorrison up to 4th as John Morgan just ran out of rear tyre grip through the long right-hander there. Maybe that left rear tyre that would cop so much load through corners like here, Chapel, Stowe, Turn 1, Luffield, Kops, all of that, maybe it's starting to get just a little slippery. You see it again from John Morgan. That rear tyre is popped.
You lap the rear tires, you end up getting it to where it's hard to get on the throttle. It's hard to even get the car to stick throughout the corners right now. You can tell just a little bit of yaw out, if anything, right now as a result of those slip and slides. That's going to hurt him the rest of the way here because you only have like a couple corners to cool down the tire. Tires are definitely not getting a chance to cool down here.
Greg Seitz crosses the line, takes us on to lap 12 of 14. Race 2 will also be 14 laps. It has its own qualifying session. It's pretty much a clean slate. If this race didn't go how you wanted, Race 2 could be the one. I think there's some drivers like Earl Setzer, Bob Cohen or Franz Josef Sturm, or even Paul Stump and Stephen Karkner could be looking forward to race number 2. This battle uninhibited as they head on to one of the new straights, the Wellington Straight, probably named after the military commander and not the gumboots.
Yeah. I'm sorry, the what?
British people call gumboots wellies.
I did not realize that. And yeah, they do call them that. Is the confirmation getting in the ear, but I'm 99.9% sure that wouldn't be what the corner's named after. Or the straight.
No, but it'd be funny if it was, so that's just a little joke for all of our British viewers. Hello, hope you're well.
Duke of Wellington, I believe, is the call we got on the radio.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. way more sense. So Johannes Jorgensen, having made 4th place off an unsteady John Morgan, will now need to defend it down the hangar straight, which much more simply is named after the aircraft hangars that used to be there, storing fighter aircraft and such when this was an RAF base. And there's 2 more laps that Johannes Jorgensen's going to have to keep his hands firmly on 4th position. John Morgan's trying to get that one back off him. Greg Seitz, Ragnar Wisloff, John Payne are the top 3 at the moment, quite a bit further up the road from this particular fight. Jorgensen looks confident through the corners, but like we pointed out, there's super high average speeds around here. 4 long, fast straights where the driver behind can just line up and get a free toe.
Lots of opportunities for that we talked about already in terms of the trap, but you have to be able to utilize them right. If you're in a train, it's not going to be as advantageous so far right now for drivers like Morgan. Doesn't seem to have the pace needed even with the toe to be able to fully close up and have a true chance here.
Double apex through Luffield to bring you out flat through Woodcote onto this old pit straight, which you can still use on the modern scan of Silverstone if you select one of the short club layouts. So this is one of the few iRacing tracks with 2 full pit lanes that are usable and workable. There's a couple of other tracks with 2 pit lanes where the second one is not a real pit lane, like VIR for example. But you've got to stay close through those multiple corners here, onto the hangar straight. John Morgan just doesn't seem quite as close, as able to attack as easily as a lap ago he looked in better position. And up the road from them, Greg Seitz is about to see the white flag. He took pole position, he's led every lap. Greg Seitz is about to maybe make a victory lap. If he keeps it on the road, he's got a 5-second lead over Ragnar Wisloff. And John Payne back in 3rd, a few more seconds behind.
Outright dominant pace yet again, straight up. He seems to be in prime position to try and run away in that points lead. But Wisloff's going to need to hope for some slip-ups. In case the championship, Jorgensen, great race overall for him though. He's been top 5 this entire time. He's had the pace all throughout this one to be able to now pull away from Morgan at the late stages especially. It's been impressive to see how some of the paces really played out, especially for Jorgensen, where last time out, didn't really get the chance to race. This time out, has top 5 pace from the onset.
So looking good for Jorgensen in this 4th place, but up ahead, Greg Seitz, he's making his little victory lap here. He's got the fastest lap of the race. He's led every lap. He took pole position and only a few more corners to negotiate. Famous corners at that. Complex of high-speed change of direction. 6th, down to 5th, down to 4th, and then on the throttle onto the hangar straight. Point it straight at your braking marker, or not. Or maybe that works too, down at Stowe Corner. Ragnar Wisloff, 4.5 seconds behind. Not close enough to get a slipstream. Not close enough to close in Greg Seitz. Just close enough to see him skating away into the distance and towards the checkered flag here. Vale at the left-hander. Club used to be one smooth right-hander, got reprofiled into this double apex sort of thing, but the checkered flag, Barney's waving it there, crossing the line. Greg Seitz takes race 1 of 2 in tonight's 60-plus racing adventures from Ragnar Wisloff. John Payne looks not untroubled for 3rd place. I think he's dropped back a little bit over the last few laps, a little closer to Johannes Jorgensen and John Morgan. You see them crossing the line for the top 5 just in the background behind him.
Yeah, great race overall, clean, except for the opening lap for the field here today. Drivers like Hayes still in a hold off O'Malley though. Will there be a chance for O'Malley? He's got a good run. Is there enough of a run to send it?
Reckon there's a chance here. O'Malley will think about it. It's the last lap and you don't want to finish the race still wondering. He's not close enough, and around the outside there, JC Hay with a really good line to carry speed through Stowe. O'Malley looking this way, looking the other, he's gonna have a go. If he'd backed himself, I reckon he could have done it. JC Hay was really early on the brakes, but O'Malley didn't want to be the one to throw his nose into a closing wedge in the last corner of the last lap and cause an accident. So JC Hay gets to hold on to 15th from O'Malley. Franz Josef Stum and David Bradley are going to be some of the last cars to cross the checkered flag. Is Jack Turner still running on the lead lap? He is. I think everyone else is about a lap down, like Bob Kern and Paul Stump, and Stephen Karkner is Stephen Parkner.
See what you've done there after being 7 laps down, but good credit to Turner to keep on the lead lap to finish out the race in the 55 machine. I'll be happy to see the race come to a close without any 4Xs to add to that paint scheme.
Yeah, BMW logo, X4X. Going on for Jack Turner, the last car to cross the checkered flag for race 1 at Silverstone. That brings us towards the results of race 1. And there's no surprise who stands up top. It's the twice champion Greg Seitz. Pole, led every lap. Fastest lap on lap 11 there. Take a lot to stop Greg Seitz when he turns in performances like that. From Ragnar Wisloff and John Payne. Gerhardus Jorgensen and John Morgan had a great little battle all the way through there. Jorgensen in 4th from Morgan in 5th. Clean from Ulf Olsen, who gets 6th place. Mike McCormick, Todd Scholl and Russ Addy there. But Mike Grandy, big mover of the race, started on the rear of grid in the final row in 23rd, and he gets 10th after gaining 13 positions. Douglas Beasley, Jay Friels, Bill Smitham, Randy Shoemake, JC Hay, Steve O'Malley, Franz Josef Stum, David Bradley, Earl Setzer, Bob Cohen and Jack Turner, the last cars on the lead lap. Bob Kern and Paul Stump 1 lap down from some of the dramas that they had, and Stephen Karkner, the sole Club Canada driver, a retirement about halfway through race number 1. Still stand a chance of getting out in race number 2 though, and we can look forward to that one coming up relatively shortly. But before we do, Justin, I hope some of those drivers are going to come our way. They know where to find us, and we'd love to chat with them.
I think they found their way to us. It's just a matter of finding the open door. Yes, they are here. They are here, David.
Our whole podium standing by, so Justin, I think first I'm going to get to 3rd place John Payne, and the 3rd place driver John Payne joins us.
Hey guys.
Great performance from you. Lap times maybe dropped off a little bit at the end, so it was maybe a couple of drivers, just the pace in the final couple of laps wasn't what it was in the middle.
Man, you guys keep an eye on everything. Yeah, I started taking it easy toward the end. I had a little scare about 5 laps from the end, and I was like, well, let's not just throw this 3rd away. So I just calmed down and just tried to finish.
Greg Seitz and Ragnar Wisloff, 2 drivers who are really on a level the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, they are. A different season, same story. They're quick, no doubt about it. I just wanted to try to hang in the draft as long as I could. I was hoping to hang a little longer, or hoping that somebody made a mistake, but neither one of those things happened. So, yeah, I'm happy with 3rd.
And so what's the feeling in the driver's seat around a track like this? Obviously, from the outside perspective, I think of it as very high speed. That toe that you mentioned can be very strong down some of the straights if you can go with someone. But a lot of drivers looked like it was a handful on cold tyres on the race start, and then right at the end of the race, maybe the high-speed corners were putting a bit of energy into the tyres, and it was getting a bit skatey in the back half of the race as well.
No, that's exactly what I see. I tried to, at the start, to just stay with them, try to get a little gap between myself and 4th, and then tried to hold on. And like I said, toward the end, yeah, I got a little sketchy, and so I just kind of backed it down. Yeah, the tires do go away here. At least for some of us. I saw Greg was sitting fast laps at the very end. So
4 Club Texas drivers on the grid today. You get to take bragging rights over Mike McCormick, Jay Friels and Randy Shoemake. How's that feel?
I guess good. I didn't even realize that. I knew Mike was from Texas. I didn't know the other guys were. Yeah, it's I guess good. Leading the pack.
You get the bragging rights in that way. You're on the podium, and you'll remain in the championship hunt. And we'll look forward to seeing you in some of the later races and go well in race 2 if you're going to be on the grid for that one, John.
I think so. You guys do a great job. Well, hopefully talk to you then.
See you, John.
Bye.
So how about one step further up the race 1 podium, Justin? Ragnar Wisloff came in second.
Yes, indeed. He now joins us here. Ragnar, first things first, how are you feeling about the second place run here to start off the day?
It's the story of the season, isn't it? To be a few seconds behind Greg. He's so quick. It's hard to keep up with him. But it wasn't at least it wasn't 15 seconds. It was, what was it, 4 seconds? That's I guess that's honorable.
So what do you need to do to keep up with Greg, or rather to change up the strategy to keep up with Greg?
Go quicker. I think my consistency is okay. The rhythm was okay. I'm just 0.5 too slow. And where do I find that? I mean, if you know, Justin, then we'll have a chat after.
Well, I will ask you this then. So far, though, how would you describe the series and the atmosphere for this season? Already 31 seasons, including this campaign, down in F3 competition this season. It's been a long time.
It is. It's a very, I think it's a special kind of league. We have, I think, 6 or 7 series running at the same time now. So you can choose whatever you like in the different categories. If you like to throw dirt at ovals, you can do that. Or if you want to drive these winged cars like the F3, you can do that. So I think the league is going very strong, and of course we are gentlemen, and the driving standards are very good here. Even if you run closely, you can usually be quite sure that you will have the space you need, and there won't be unnecessary issues. So I think that is a hallmark of this league. Now, if we can only figure out, as you say, how to go as quick as Craig, then we might have better races as well. It must have been a bit boring to watch. 5 seconds up and 5 seconds down. But maybe further back, there would have been fights. That's another thing with this league. It doesn't matter. I mean, the fighting is not always at the top. The best fighting is usually in the midfield.
Well, on that note, then, will we see you in the next race then coming up in less than 10 minutes? And if so, what are your keys real quickly?
Well, qualify well, and then try to find the rhythm, and then see how it goes. Maybe we will have a closer race in the next one. We'll see.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Ragnar. Congratulations on the second place run today.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. That's Ragnar Wisloff in second, David. Solid run there.
Yes, indeed, but couldn't keep up with race winner Greg Seitz joins us. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Just keeping them a couple of seconds back. That slipstream seems like it's pretty strong if you let them stay with you early.
Yeah, I was looking to get an early advantage. I don't know why I could not find my rhythm really in this actual race. In the practice session, I was just cranking out 151s left and right, but I don't know what it was. Maybe I was just trying to stay perfect, so I got that extra point. But yeah, I wasn't able to really find a good rhythm. But luckily, it was enough to kind of give me a gap and just slowly increment that.
Short pace lap here, coolish track, very cold tyres off that race start by the look of things.
Yeah, they were. Kind of caught me by surprise a little bit, but I guess that applied to everybody else. So it was, it was a little sketchy at first, and then the tires came up to temperature, and it kind of started behaving nicely.
David. So on that note here, Greg, how is the approach for the second race?
I think I'll probably start a little further back just because I've kind of got the points I needed in this race. Luckily, we have kind of a 2-race system for the points, so it's the best out of the 2. So the next one I can kind of approach with a little less pressure on me. So I'll probably start a little further back just to kind of mix it up with the guys, and I think it'll make for a much more interesting race.
Yeah, that's going to make things very interesting here once you get to the preparation, Greg.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
Greg Seitz coming away with the win in this one, David, for race number 1.
Yes, indeed, we look forward to seeing them all go racing one more time in race number 2. So that one's coming up a little bit later in our coverage. We'll have qualifying and we'll have race number 2 to see if anyone else can stop Greg Seitz. After he's won race number 1, we know Greg Seitz occasionally likes to play some little games, so we'll see what happens. Stay with us on RaceSpotTV, David Haynes, Justin Prince and Connery Maddock, because we'll be bringing you qualifying and race number 2 for 60 Plus Racing Adventures next up. We're back with race 2 of 60 Plus Racing Adventures. It's season 31, it's round 3, and we are at Silverstone Circuit. Drivers are qualifying right now to set the grid for the 14-lap race number 2. I'm David Haynes with Justin Prince, Connery Maddock on the production. Justin, it's all about, can anyone stop this man, this driver, near untouchable in race 1, Greg Seitz?
Yeah, that's going to be a huge question because he's already secured the max points allowable for the day for either of the races. So as he said, the pressure's off for this race. If he wants to, he could just say, I'll start mid-pack and see how things go. But the problem is, his first lap was better than anyone else's second lap in the last qualifying. So we'll see what Greg meant by that in terms of that. But better yet, how things are going to go for the field itself, with them once again trying to see, can they chase down Wisloff, Payne, or better yet, Paul Stump, if Stump's equipment holds out this time.
Qualifying order chopping and changing a little bit. Ragnar Wisloff's at the top of the moment. Kahadis Orison just banged in a time good enough for 4th. What about Greg Seitz? We watch him out of the final corner to the timing line on the new pit straight. And he'll go to 4th place with that first lap. He's now got one more to improve, or not, whatever his desire may be. Ulf Olsen, Randy Shoemake, Stephen Karkner are also out on the track at the moment. Karkner, the one and only Club Canada driver, Justin.
Yeah, the Canadian had a bit of a rough one last time. 154s in final practice in his orange and black machine. We'll see what he's able to do. He had an invalidated first lap. Carter looking to bounce back quickly. Does not get a clean lap on either.
One of a couple drivers with no qualifying lap time now, so Mike McCormick, Jack Turner, Jerry Kerr also no times. Ragnar Wisloff remains up top. I think he's given us his full complement of 2 flying laps. Only driver left that couldn't usurp him is, of course, Greg Seitz. Ulf Olsen's qualifying looks to be done as well. So Seitz has gone through Cobb's Corner, the old turn 1, now about halfway around this layout. This is where drivers make the real difference. 3-4 apexes through here, multiple gear shifts, changes the direction, keeping it tidy as he can to then take speed onto the hangar straight. For Greg Seitz, there's just a short distance left on what will be his final qualifying lap.
Yeah, even though he talked about trying to take a little bit of pressure off himself in terms of the race to have a little bit of a different flair for the pack, he seems to be in line nearly for the pole here. We'll see what the time lines up to be here for Seitz. Even when he's not 100%, his 100% putting it right in the ballpark as the other's in. Well, that's a way to knock him 100.
And the thing about Greg Seitz now is I don't know if he did that on purpose or not. But he was tracking very, very equal with Ragnar Wisloff's pole time based on the sector times I was looking at. And he's having a bit of fun now, for sure. But yeah, he was tracking very, very equal with Ragnar Wisloff on that second lap that he didn't complete. And it means that he'll start on the second row alongside Paul Stump with Ragnar Wisloff and John Payne on the pole. That's one way to warm the tyres, for sure. 20 seconds left on the clock to bring qualifying to an end, but all of the drivers have already brought their qualifying to an end. It's 23 drivers in this second race. So I'm not immediately picking who we've lost from race 1 to race 2.
Yeah, I'm curious how this is now going to go with your dominant driver on pace. Now going to be hard of the field. Wisloff, say no problem, because there's no problem for him in terms of clean position because of what he did in qualifying, backing up what he did the last race as well. Near identical qualifying time.
So they'll form up on the grid, and they'll form up like this. Ragnar Wisloff and John Payne on the front row. Paul Stump in third, with Greg Seitz there in the fourth place. Gerhardus Jorrison and John Morgan, 5th and 6th. Ulf Olsen and Todd Scholl are the next row, and Russ Addy, Mike Grandy, the big mover of race number 1, will start out at 10th. Franz Josef Storm and Bill Smitham, 11th and 12th. Bob Cohen and Randy Shoemake, Douglas Beasley, Earl Setzer, JC Hay, David Bradley to 18th place. We'll see the last of the drivers, and the last driver with the qualifying time is Bobby Love. So he's joined us for race number 2. And then Mike McCormick, Stephen Carkner, Jack Turner and Jerry Kerr, all no qualifying time. We'll see them start 20th, 21st, 22nd and 23rd for this rolling start. Track conditions the same as race number 1, Justin.
Yeah, identical in terms of the air temp, in terms of the track temp, believe as well, just about as well. Instant time is locked at 10:40 a.m. So going to be very similar in all accounts there. It's just going to be simple. Can you outdo how you did in your first race? That's the question for many.
You see a couple of drivers who are worried about those cold tyres there. So we're trying to get just a bit of work into them in this short run before we get underway. Remember, timing.racespot has all of your live timing for this qualifying and race number 2. I think Ragnar Wisloff's decided, I'm getting this one underway early, so I've got just a little bit of space to play with on these cold tyres. A lot of the drivers will have learnt from race number 1, not all of them though. Mike Grandy looks like he's the one wide out of there, flat out-ish through turn number 1, already making some moves. Greg Seitz round the outside and way wide, just like John Payne as well, who also ran out of space through turn number 1 on the cold tyres. The big braking zone's a challenge here, and it's a challenge for Randy Shoemake.
Bit of a slide at the back, but that's the only issue so far. Every time I say that, it seems like we have 5 spins, but this time not so much right now. Everybody seems to be able to get a better grip of things for this race car compared to how things went in race 1, a lot more cleaner.
So Ragnar Wisloff almost a second ahead. Maybe trying to break that slipstream, break that toe early, but John Payne, Greg Seitz, Paul Stump, John Morgan, ferocious battle from second on back, where Greg Seitz has already made up 1 spot and is lining up John Payne pretty early in this one. Cops corner we go, super fast right-handed, tiny bit off camber on the exit, on board with 3rd place. Greg Seitz, championship leader.
Yeah. Just able to already get himself top 3 on the board, already past Stump, and seems to be just quite simply taking it carefully. He can do that right now with how things are going, but the problem is he's also lightning quick down the straightaways. He's also, despite taking it nice and easily, saying, I'm not going to give up these easy passes.
So Greg Seitz already to 2nd place. Towards the end of lap number 1, Ragnar Wisloff's lead only just 1 second. And then the rest of the cars come quick and fast through the rest of the field. Seitz getting a little sideways there, but controlling it, and that's the key to making these cars go fast by the looks of things. Not everyone can get the car that sideways and control it lap after lap, corner after corner, with the kind of consistency that the quick drivers have. John Morgan also made a few positions in that opening lap there, getting ahead of Gerhardus Jorrison as part of your top 6. Making their way into the slow switchback loop section right now.
Yeah, right now I think for Wisloff, it's the question, has he found something that magically gets him half a second quicker? Usually not really. But we'll see what he's going to be able to say with the clean air compared to dirty air from the get-go, etc. It does hit different in terms of the handling. It affects the tires differently compared to being in the pack. There's a lot of different factors that may help Wisloff a little bit in this race as we take a look at Scholl in that battle for 8th.
Indeed, towards Cops Corner they go.
Much better run for Addy to start now that he has the track position. Wouldn't be surprised if Addy maybe contends for the top 5 with how things play out here. As long as things played smart. Same for Grandy. This time put up a qualifying time. As track position, they're right about where they were running at the end of the last race after the spins.
So no change of position amongst this group of 4, Ulf Olsen, Todd Scholl, Russ Addy, Mike Grandy since the start of the race. Makes a bit of a change for Mike Grandy after the race 1 that he put in, but this is a far more respectable qualifying effort from him in race number 2. We saw him come on strong a little later in the race. For sure, what we heard from the drivers after race 1 about the tyres, how they start in a difficult spot, they warm up, and then if anything, they maybe overheat a little bit towards the end of the race. There's room for the drivers to come on strong later in the race and manage it just a little bit if they need to.
By the way, Douglas Beasley seems to have already managed to break the wing, so keep in mind it's going to be tricky to make sure you don't slip and slide into a barrier, don't hit the sausage curbs, anything along those lines. So we talked about this a little bit before. Already it seems we've had 2 drivers with major issues, him as well as Jack Turner, who's already parked in for this race.
Is your leaders, your top 3, pretty close. Ragnar Wisloff officially has the fastest lap of the race, but only because Greg Seitz went off track on the last lap. He was quicker, but the lap time deleted due to track limits or whatever we're all going to hear this weekend from Austria. And so, while Seitz closed, he didn't officially take the fastest lap of the race.
I felt like that was almost a Eurovision reference more than anything. In terms of the song competition. Is it an Austria? Never mind. What I'm talking about more so is going to be just, can Greg Seitz
in Eurovision, bro.
Don't you have to be in Europe to be in that?
No, you have to be in the European Broadcasting Organization or whatever it is.
So the union. Basically, right? So basically, in theory, everybody can compete for a European singing competition.
It's European colonialism in the 21st century as it keeps spreading its wings through places like even as far as Azerbaijan and Australia. The race lead is getting super tight. Greg Seitz has a legal lap. He has the fastest lap of the race now. And there's also close battles through the rest of the field here as well. Russ Addy looks like he's maybe getting into his stride to challenge Todd Scholl. Mike Grandy on a shallow entry to the loop corner after Village.
Yeah, I think a lot of these drivers are currently getting themselves draft locked with how things have played out early on. This is exactly what my fear was as the race went on, David, is who's going to end up getting basically stuck in the road choo-choo train. And trains like this one led by Olsen are exactly what I'm talking about, where the draft ends up being a mute point if everybody gets getting the draft.
This is the race lead. There's 2 tenths to cover them heading down into Baggett's and then the Chapel that follows. Seitz looks to be setting himself up for this exit, taking the wide entry, tight exit off each following segment so he can maximise the final bit, coming onto the hanger straight, just 2.5 tenths behind, immediately up into 5th gear, soon to shift up into 6th gear, and potentially to slipstream past towards the race lead. Ragnar Wisloff takes the inside line defensively, but there can be grip around the outside here. The way that the camber works, around the outside goes Greg Seitz, and he takes the race lead with a super decisive, super gutsy move.
Nicely done by Greg Seitz, showing why he had the fastest pace in the last race out of anybody. And already, he's going to be very difficult to keep up with the rest of the way. Can Payne take advantage of all of this? He looks like he's already in attack mode.
John Payne got quite a bit closer as your race leaders battled side by side, so now all 3 of them are covered by just half a second. But Greg Seitz is the one up front, maybe able to stretch his legs. Wisloff will try to stay close. Late apex, the best traction to try to stay close on the Wellington straight. And then John Payne is a little more middle of the road out of all of that, but he'll get the double toe down towards the end of the straight here.
trying a different apex, trying to take a little bit wider, get some clean air on parts of the front nose. That's a little bit too much speed though in the next apex. Through the left field, Brooklyn's in that complex. Not the greatest to run for Payne. That's going to cost him.
Yeah, it will. Spreads the leaders out to over 1.1 seconds instead of sort of half a second they were for a little bit. Stump not so far off these guys back there in the 4th place. John Morgan and Carter Jorgensen still 5th and 6th. Your leader hasn't dropped the whole field just yet, but he's now got 7 tenths entering the fast sequence of corners here. This is where Greg Seitz can make a bit of time, look to stretch away so he doesn't get passed straight back by Ragnar Wisloff. It was here a lap ago that Seitz took the race lead. Now he leads by 7 tenths.
Yeah, I think for Wisloff, I think he's still got good pace for second, but races are done on paper, as some may say, right? Payne mentioned he backed off a little bit to try and preserve track position before. Does he dare do that this time to try and get the extra points here and try and battle with Wisloff?
Battles all through the field for the final race of the night in 60-plus racing adventures, like our leading trio right now. Some other drivers through the field making progress. Mike McCormick, Stephen Karkner, JC Hay, for example. We saw a few of those drivers without qualifying times. Well, they got 14 laps to try to make good on it. Greg Seitz has made good on his 4th place start very early in this one.
Yeah, we already talked about with Seitz. That was not a surprise for us to see that charge up, but others haven't really been charged to the field as much as the last race. I've noticed already here, David. That's mainly what mostly everybody decided to put a qualifying time down after realizing, hey, it's going to be difficult to come back from, say, here. Bill Smitham, he's ahead of this battle. That's Bob Cohen able to make the swap there. Already up to the 12th spot, Franz Josef Stump back to 13th.
I see in the Hall of Fame, he's got the Swiss flag next to his name, Franz Josef Stump. Call him Stummy.
Yeah, a little bit better of a race for the 34, we'll say, so far. And this one is to move up a little bit back to Wisloff. I think right now, at the very least, you have to give a huge shout to 54. Whatever the pedal issue seemed to be for him, David, the calibration before, it's resolved itself. A top 4 for Stump to do very well, much different compared to his last race. He's just behind this top 3 pack.
Yeah, still on the road, hasn't had to pull off, and running quite well there. Just almost, yeah, definitely getting clear of John Morgan and Gerhardus Jorgensen and their battle that they have going on. Leading trio goes through what's turn 1 on the new configuration of Silverstone. It's been around for, I think, getting on a decade now.
Yes, remember, a lot of these drivers end up spending several dozen seasons. We've already seen some do. As soon as they join 60, the amount of people I've seen in the community say, as soon as I turn 60, I want to join this series, is actually pretty high. If you know about the series, you want to be a part of the community if you race the style of racing.
More people turn 60 every day. Few of the drivers. Whoa, problem for John Payne in 3rd place there. He's had a slide, locked it up, and now he sees Seitz and Wisloff sail off in the distance. Maybe sees Paul Stump able to challenge him for the podium. Look at how close the rest of the drivers are in this group behind. A little mistake will not go unpunished inside of the top 10.
I think left field's become a bugaboo for Payne. Just has made multiple mistakes there, just sending it too hard for the apexes. That's, I think, what led to that slide you were talking about here. Now Stump not having his best of a run to close up here because of the dirty air on the front wing. But Stump does have, at the very least, pace to, I think, equalize with Payne.
Morgan side by side with Gerhardus Jorgensen in the battle for 5th place right here. At the end of the lap, it's the inside line for Morgan. I think he'll get that one away from Gerhardus Jorgensen. Little sideways in places, just starting to reach the point where if you lean on the tyres aggressively, if you're throwing the car around, the tyres get hot. They don't really get a chance to cool down. They're always at high speed, and there are a lot of faster, more loaded corners in this new version of Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. The loop came before the new pit building, so there was 1 year of Formula One raced with the start-finish line in the pit building in the old configuration, but with this loop section of track added, and that was 2010, the year that Mark Webber said not bad for a number 2 driver. So that unique 1 year only configuration forever burned into my memory.
Yeah, and I remember people thinking, and at least talking about, I don't like this configuration because of a lot of different factors, whether it's too many twisty bits, too non-traditional. There's a lot of ways you can really describe it, at least some of the thoughts I remember back then, but it's grown to me as the layout's gone on in age because, well, it's become naturalized to the public, right? A lot of people were used to the old layout with the old pit straight and had that old sharp feel, but now that it's been so long and you have so much racing history built up, David, it ends up building more to the memory. Because remember, this used to be essentially the top end of the first half of the course, where these drivers now come to the final sector. That flipped with that layout switching part, and in turn, it's really changed this racetrack over time. It's not even the same layout, not even close to what they raced in during the first GPs back in the 1950s. It's a track of transition and change with the times.
One of my favourite websites is racingcircuits.info that has all of the old layouts and configurations of old circuits, and you can go year by year looking at the changes, and you're exactly right. This is one of those circuits that it started off as just the perimeter road around all of the runways, and then they added an extra corner here, they added a chicane there, they changed this bit a little bit by bit. We've gone from looking like an airport to looking like a permanent racetrack.
I mean, you could probably still land a plane on one or two of the straightaways. They're that long. Just can't be a commercial jet.
Road Atlanta, famously.
Yes, even with the elevation change, absolutely. But
for the on-board view here from Gerhardus Jorgensen, you see what drivers had to work with in this sort of 2010 era of Formula 3, as it was known then. So the brake bias adjustment's not on the wheel, it's behind the left hand. It is paddle shifted. Various other little buttons on the wheel, shift lights and display.
yeah, but it's a car that races well. It's challenging to race well in it. It's challenging to build at all in it in terms of setup wise. It's hard to pass it. It's quintessential if you want to learn how to race an open wheeler. This is one of the better cars to do it in.
Yeah, pretty good car. I do believe that at different rear wing downforce levels there is a visual difference to how many elements are in the rear wing as well. It's one of those sort of few cars where changes in the garage setup visually affect it. The IndyCar does that as well. You can take rear wing elements and wing elements on and off, and then we've got GT3 cars, of which there's also a 60 Plus Racing Adventures League 4, where it's in the garage setup. You can choose endurance lights on and off. You can choose sort of, a colour of some of the LED lights above the door and around the car for your nighttime endurance racing. But getting towards the end of this race number 2 though, and Greg Seiss has got a 2.4 second lead from Ragnar Wisloff. John Payne about the same behind Ragnar Wisloff. It's John Morgan, Gerhardus Jorgensen, the highest placed battle at the moment. Morgan in that 6th place. 5th place was just a little bit quicker last lap.
Yeah, think Morgan's running again right about where you expect him to be for this style of racing. Just has been playing it well, playing it fairly safe, just playing a defensive game, because Jurison, even though he's got the draft that's really helped him dump the hander straight, you're not going to beat somebody that's much better in the corners like we've seen Morgan do all race, unless you're rapidly quick enough to then park it and then secure the pass without a crossover attempt back from Morgan.
So less drastic as far as biggest mover through the race goes in race number 2 compared to race number 1. Of course, we had Mike Grandy with no qualifying time in race number 1 move 14 spots up through the field. The biggest mover right now, I'd give it to Mike McCormick with 4 spots from 20th to 16th, and he's right in the middle of battle with Stephen Cockner, El Setzer, and JC Hay. This is them. There is Rust Racing's Mike McCormick in the 16th. You can smell an opportunity in the last couple of laps here to make some spots with how close those cars are in front of him, and that's what he's trying to do through the end of the lap here. Oh, there's some smoke up in the air from that.
Still looks all right, but I do say McCormick's been really making it challenging for himself today. He just hasn't had the best of run here in the second race because he didn't put in the qualifying time. Probably thought, hey, I want to try the last to first challenge too. Thump in terms of the pace so far. And this is going to be a part of that massive driver 1 and driver 2 spread Rust Racing has in the team standings. Once again building, possibly.
So McCormick was a little wide of the apex in Village, and then Setzer in front of him a little wide of the apex the corner after. A little bit sideways going on for McCormick there, and Randy Shoemake even gets a bit closer to this battle. So it's all on 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and that's why the drivers come racing for 31 consecutive seasons in 60 plus racing adventures. Whether you're Greg Seitz up the front or these drivers here, you'll find someone your speed to battle, and they really enjoy the community sense of it as well, part of this league. Oh, McCormick's had a moment, he's off, he's through the gravel, and he's no longer the David Haynes biggest mover of the race.
Yeah, something must have broke there with that mistake there. McCormick just went up straight, just went straight off, and McCormick not going to help his team's team point standing situation. Quite simply, he missed part of his corner and just said, you know what, I'm done. I'm just going to park it. Bye-bye.
Certainly odd while his teammate leads the race. Mike McCormick, after some solid progress, is out. Fastest lap of the race also belongs to Greg Seitz, so he's looking to clean sweep that accolade as well. They're fighting for spots a little further back here. John Morgan, Gerhardus Jorison. So this will be a decent round for John Morgan to score some points back in the Super 70s Championship.
Yeah, and remember, interesting enough, they actually had to add an extra bit of fuel for safety just in case. They're projected originally to go 15 plus outlap David. This was one of the rounds not supposed to have pit stops. We won't see pit stops here in Race Spot for the series until VIR's finale. There's only a couple total of stops expected. But so far, these drivers have handled the changing of the handling as the fuel burns pretty well in both races.
Yellow submarine fans for Paul Stump. Meanwhile, Ragnar Wisloff in second place was a submariner in a previous life. So that's fun. 60 plus racing adventures, submarine facts chat covered off as we're soon to start the penultimate lap of the race. Greg Seitz leads by just 4 tenths.
Right. Yeah, this gap so far has continuously started to shrink here. Seitz have been up by 2 seconds, so all of a sudden, The gap's gone the opposite way. Seitz going to the 153s last time by, backing it down a touch. 152.6 last time by, half a second quicker for Wisloff to chip away this gap.
Yeah, Wisloff's found a bit of pace, but I think Greg Seitz maybe playing with his food slightly on this one. He's got 5 seconds over John Payne in third at the moment. That fight for third could get ferocious. Paul Stump was quicker the previous lap. John Morgan was quicker the previous lap than John Payne in third. The first and second duo worked their way through Cop's corner, running real out wide there is Ragnar Wisloff. One of the ways that your lap time can be deleted is running out wide in places like that, or the exit of Stowe, or the exit of the final corner at Club. Onto the hanger straight, back out to 7/10 as Wisloff didn't get the run he was hoping for through there, and Seitz was pretty stable and planted.
Wisloff said one thing on the radio now, whoops, in response to that mistake. I think he just knows he might have just thrown away his chance for the race win right then and there.
Very efficient language, because that's Norwegian for I've made a little bit of an error and it may cost me late in this race that I'm no longer within striking distance of the race lead as I'd hoped to be. We start the final lap of the race with Greg Seitz with a 1 second lead now over Ragnar Wisloff. Still, they haven't been caught by John Payne. There's battles all through the field. This is the one we were talking about earlier when we were praising the kind of racing that 60 Plus Racing Adventures delivers for everyone in the field. JC Hay Elsets, Stephen Carpenter, Randy Shoemake. Unfortunately, no more Mike McCormick in this battle. They don't seem to be missing him though.
Yeah, they've just been battling along just like normal. Scheduled programming. Sensor already gained the spot on Carter this lap. They are still keeping JC Hay at bay as well for the 14th spot. White flag already waving. Oh, and there goes the step out for Setzer.
Trouble getting to power, maybe a bit too much contact with the curbing there as well, too aggressive with the throttle, and of course you could feel the pressure of the pack racing there coming towards the final lap, and it's caused dramas for Setzer. Lost a couple positions. Even Bobby Love and David Bradley appear to have gone through. Halfway around the final lap, Greg Seitz will kick just a little bit of grass and dirt up in the face of Ragnar Wisloff, who in second place is just out of reach of a slipstream and any way to challenge Greg Seitz, who is currently sailing towards back-to-back race wins and fastest laps to seal round 3.
Yeah, Greg wanted to have a little bit of fun in this one, and well, winning each of the races seems to be very fun, David. He has had near knockout pace in both of these races. As Wisloff said, hard to gain half a second each lap like Seitz has done much of this race today.
When he turned 60 and joined 60 Plus Racing Adventures, Greg Seitz was an instant success. Already 2 championships to his name in the short time since then. He's heading for another one potentially as he takes the round clean sweep at Silverstone to extend his championship lead. Greg Seitz, race winner from Silverstone. Ragnar Wisloff and John Payne are going to complete the podium there. Payne came under an immense amount of pressure laid on from Paul Stump, John Morgan and Gerhardus Jorrison. And this looks like a little bit of movement to try to break the toe from some of these drivers further through the field. Karkner just clear of JC Hay, who needs to worry about Randy Shoemake.
He's starting to really slip up to close out the lap. Shoemake, good recovery. Not close enough to pressurize a mistake, though, for this final spot in the battles, at least.
We saw it's tough to get the power down out of that final corner late on in these races, and Randy Shoemake can't do it as confidently as JC Hay, who stays ahead. Plenty of cars still on the lead lap of this second of 2 races. So Setzer, who demonstrated the difficulty in that corner earlier, will now come through to the checkered flag. Douglas Beasley might be one of the last cars we see. Jack Turner pulled off. Mike McCormick pulled off, and Jerry Kerr is the only car I think is going to finish a lap down.
Yeah, Douglas Beasley had to take the wing change as well in this one. He's the last finisher in the race itself. But overall, good day here in UK action at the Silverstone circuit.
It's always a good day when you're racing. Let's take a look at how they finished race number 2. having qualified 4th place. Greg Seitz made up 2 positions early and then picked off Ragnar Wisloff for the race win here. Wisloff tried to go with him, gave it all, but just couldn't match the speed of Greg Seitz. John Payne joined them on the podium in the 3rd place once again. In fact, we've repeated our podium from race number 1, haven't we? Fourth up, John Morgan, Gerhardus Jorgensen, Ulf Olsen, Russ Addy, Mike Grandy and Todd Scholl completing the top 10. And then Bill Smith and Bob Cohen, Franz Josef Sturm. Stephen Kaufner gained 7 positions. He takes the David Haynes Biggest Mover Award in 14th place. JC Hay and Randy Shoemaker battle all the way to the line. Those guys were so close, and it's evidenced in the timing. Bobby Love, David Bradley, Earl Setzer and Douglas Beasley, the top 20 off the lead lap. Jeremy Kerr in 21st. Mike McCormick clearly encountering some problems as he retired from this race, and Jack Turner did not take the race start. Now, Justin, with the identical podium, race number 2 as race number 1, I'm proposing we flip this around. How about you go to 3rd place, John Payne?
Yes, indeed. John Payne finishing off this one in 3rd. John, how would you describe this one compared to the last race?
Sloppy.
How so?
Yeah, I took off. I knew Greg was back there, and my goal was just stay with Ragnar as long as I could. I think corner 1, I got a 1X right there. And then when Greg put some pressure on me, I certainly didn't let him by, but he went by, and I thought maybe he could pull us back up to Ragnar, and that did happen. But then I had a half spin somewhere, and then the rest of the race was just trying to keep my 3rd position. But it was tough. I'm looking forward to Long Beach next week.
Overall, though, how would you describe the challenges of Silverstone as a whole, and why?
That's a tough track. I think for me, you mess up any one of those early corners, and then you feel like, well, this whole lap is shot, and it's just mitigating damage control the whole rest of the lap. And, I watch my Delta, and maybe I shouldn't do that because it can play on you as to what's going on, and that you're all of a sudden sucking and getting worse and worse and worse, when in reality maybe it's not the case. But yeah, it was ugly. Maybe I should get a wheel and quit playing with a controller.
Wait, you say you're playing with a controller or a wheel?
No, I'm playing with a wheel. I was just kidding.
Okay, gotcha. But next broadcast to race in Suzuka. You mentioned Long Beach next for the schedule for you guys. How would you describe Long Beach, and then in a couple weeks after that, Suzuka, by the next time we reach the midway point of the season?
Well, I've always liked Suzuka. I don't know how it'll translate to the other fellas, but that's probably a top 3 track. We have Coda mixed in somewhere, and not many people like Coda. That's a tough technical track, kind of like this track. You can make a mistake early, and then you're just behind the whole lap. But yeah, looking forward to going forward and try to see if I can practice a little more.
Well, John, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations on the podium today.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
That's John Payne coming away 3rd today, David, in this one.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And 2nd place was Ragnar Wisloff.
Oh.
He'll join us right now. Congrats on the double 2nd place as Ragnar, but I have a sense you were hoping, even if it was a slim chance, for something a little more.
Well, you always hope, but then you see that silver car in your mirror, and you try to fight. And I think we had a few corners at least going side by side. Yes, you're right. I was hoping, but it ended the same way it did the last time. But yeah, it's so fun. This car is so good at this track. The combination of the downforce and the flowing corners of Silverstone it's magic. It really is fun.
You tried to give it all in the last 2 laps through that flowing high-speed section that this circuit's most famous for, Beckett's Chapel leading onto the Hangar Straight, and didn't quite get it.
No, I think maybe it was on lap 13. And I was going quite closely with Greg, and then, he throws the car very, very hard. It's almost like go-karting into the middle section, the right-hander there, and I got caught up a little. I almost spun. I was, amazed. How does he do that? And so, he gained maybe I don't know 2-3 tenths, and that was it. I was in the draft before that, but well, uh, I don't think I would have passed him. Maybe I'd caught up with him, but wouldn't have passed him.
Now, I've just googled weather in Oslo for a rough idea. Bit of a heat wave coming tomorrow.
Already here, actually. So it's been 24, 25 degrees, nice weather, sunny skies, good, just about right wind. So, well, you know where I'll be.
I think I can make a very, very strong guess. Obviously you want a steady wind, not sort of, blustery coming and going, but what sort of how many knots wind is an ideal day for Ragnar Wisloff?
12 to 15 knots, that's perfect. And if it's then from the southwest, so it's nice and warm, and as you say, steady coming up the fjord, not gusting over the hills, then that's a good day.
You've had a pretty reasonable day today as well, twice on the podium, and obviously at a track that you seem to enjoy.
Yes, absolutely. It is good fun, and it's important to remember that we're here to have fun, and well, it's nice to win, but Greg is Greg, and we've had fun, and no car contacts. I had a few off tracks, I think in exit of Stowe a few times, but nothing worse than that. So no carnage, no damage to the car. The engineers will be happy with me.
Well, it won't be too many weeks until RaceSpotTV sees 60 plus racing adventures again. In the meantime, happy racing, happy sailing, enjoy the weather, Ragnar.
Well, thank you very much, David. Might speak to you again. Where are we next time we are broadcast? Can't remember.
You tell me, we saw it earlier. Is it Laguna Seca? Suzuka.
Suzuka. That's another one. That's almost as fun as Silverstone. Okay, very good.
Similar characteristics, except maybe a tiny bit more elevation change and a bit more sushi.
Yes, and a few more Ferris wheels.
That's true. We'll see you there. We'll see 60 plus racing adventures there, and best of luck.
Thank you very much, David.
Ragnar Wisloff 2 second places, but Greg Seitz 2 first places. Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. Greg, real quickly, first of all, how would you describe race 2?
Fun. Ragnar kept me honest, and yeah, I had a good time. I wanted to start a little further back than I did, but yeah, I wanted to kind of chase him down, and I did. When I passed him, I was surprised he defended there. I wasn't really going to pass him, but then I saw him defending the inside, and so I took my opportunity to go around the outside.
I'm very curious then on the qualifying philosophy. You qualified for the first lap, and then final corner.
Yeah, I was going too fast.
Sure. You're going too quick for what you really wanted to do.
That's right.
Gotcha. So, championship favorite so far. Perfect race in 3 of the first rounds already. How are you feeling about the championship run so far as you approach the second half?
Yeah, really good. I'm just hoping I can make all the races. Last season I wasn't able to make a lot of them, so obviously had no chance in the championship. But yeah, I'm going to try to be able to get to at least all of them except for the 2 drop races. So yeah, hopefully my schedule will work out so I actually have a chance to race. But yeah, it's a lot of fun racing with these guys.
Well, on that note, Greg, congratulations on the sweep today. We'll see how things go by the time we get to Suzuka.
All right. Appreciate it.
Greg Seitz, your winner today, David.
Exactly. 2 great races. Maybe misleading to just look at the results sheet. But of course, what everyone in 60 Plus Racing Adventures is looking for is the community, and that's why they've stuck around for 31 seasons of great racing. We'll see what's to come in 60 Plus Racing Adventures when RaceSpotTV next brings you coverage in a couple of weeks' time at Suzuka. I've been David Haynes with Justin Prince and Connery Maddock in the production. Congratulations to Greg Seitz, double race winner. Make sure you follow RaceSpotTV wherever you're watching for more great sim racing action, and of course when 60 Plus Racing Adventures returns.